Welcome back into the Tide Talk podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. Stacey Blackwood, joined by Jake Thomas as always, and our special guest from Roll Tide Wire, Layne Gerbig. What's up, fellas?
That's Layne. Doing good, man. And
How y'all
Layne,
doing?
good to have you, buddy.
I'm so glad y'all are here. I'm so glad y'all had me here because I got a lot to talk about. So
Yeah, we're excited to
got a
talk
whole
about
lot
it.
to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Alabama basketball, tips off on Tuesday night, so we're excited about that as we record here on Monday night, the night before. So we're looking forward to that. But first, we got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline.ag. The NBA season's in full swing. The NFL and college football are as well. So head on over to BetOnline.ag to place your sports bets, whether it's parlays, teasers, pleasers. Whatever you want to do, you can do it at betonline.ag. And right now, if you use promo code BELIEVE50, you will receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag. All right, guys, like we mentioned, it's a big basketball show. The season gets started tomorrow night as we record on Monday, so we're excited about that. Wanted to bring Layne on to kind of get a better idea of what's going on in Tuscaloosa with Nate Oates and the basketball program. And first off, Layne, let's just real quick kind of go back and look at what happened last year and how this team can build on what they accomplished last season.
Oh man, last year pretty much exceeded every expectation that I had for a guy in just his second year as the head man. We had Herb Jones, amazing season. Jaden Shackleford, our leading scorer, he did great too. Glad to have him back, by the way. The Sweet 16 run was better than I could have hoped for because I expected maybe get through one game, maybe one game. I really didn't think we would get to the second weekend, but the fact that we did is huge. So that pretty much just bolsters my expectations for this year.
Yeah. There's a lot to look forward to. Like you said, the way that Nate Oates has been able to turn around this program so quickly is amazing, and that staff has to be excited. Of course, we do lose Herb Jones, John Petty, Alex Reese has moved on. Josh Primo is gone as well, but there's a lot of pieces that are back that are critical pieces, and not a lot of people realize that Jaden Shackleford is is the leading returning scorer, and I think he's actually the leading returning scorer in all of the SEC.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at
Yeah,
14
and
points a game, he quietly averaged 14 points a game last year.
Very quietly.
Yeah, you didn't really see it. You didn't really see how it happened. It just kind of happened.
Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, and Layne, one thing that I want to talk about was, especially later in the season, the second half of the season, how Jawan Gary come off the bench and just it seemed like he lit a spark, for that second unit. And how do you think he's going to shake out this year? I still see great things from him.
It's hard to with the guys coming in. It's hard to put a gauge on how much he will even play. But I think he can be a good 6-man option or even another kind of role player, maybe 7th man off the bench. But he can do big things, and of course, everybody can earn more minutes with how they play. So I think he has the chance to do some special things. But we got a whole lot of people that are there now that are gonna bolster the ranks, and it overall it should be a good team.
Yeah. Talking about the roster, let's just kind of who do you think will be the starting five? Tomorrow night as Alabama rolls out against Louisiana Tech.
I'd say we got JQ at point, or we'll just go through the numbers because it's really hard to tell who's where in this offense since it's not really a traditional thing we do. I think it's going to be Javon Quinterly, Jaden Shackleford, J.D. Davidson, Charles Bediako, and we'll say Noah Gurley from the Furman transfer. And that's who I think is going to be our starting five for this one.
Yeah, real quick, I was going to say I done forgot about Noah Gurley coming in just because of how much talent is down there, you know, so he don't get talked about a lot. So my gracious, it's crazy, you know, to think about how deep that this team is, considering the fact that I grew up watching them as a kid. And I mean, Godfrey has some good teams, but I don't think we've ever had a team this deep.
That's true. And one thing that a lot of people may not know about Noah Gurley, yeah, he's a big forward. He'll be in the 4 spot more than likely, but he also shot 34% from the 3 last year.
Wow.
So, you know, he's got a pretty decent 3-point shot. And just an hour ago, Coach Oates said that he is shooting the best right now out of everybody on the team. So,
wow,
you know, he's had a really good week. And I like what I hear from Nate Oates, and I like what I've seen so far from the guys, except for that charity exhibition thing. That wasn't fun. But, you know.
you know, Jake talked about the depth of the team, and it's actually been, you know, hit a little bit, you know, with the injury to James Rojas and Namari Burnett, the transfer from Texas Tech. You know, Rojas maybe not as much as Burnett, but you know, both of those guys probably would have played some minutes, and so that is a loss for this team. But like Jake mentioned, the depth is just incredible. You know, if you know 3 or 4 years ago, you tell me that 2 guys that would play minutes are out for the year, I wouldn't be feeling very good about the state of the program. But
No.
you know, it's almost like it is with the football team. You just kind of say next man up and you know, roll the guys out there and see what happens.
And remember that we also got Keon Ellis, Keon. Why am I drawing a blank? Ambrose Hilton.
There we go.
And, you know, Juwan Gary, as you mentioned, Jake. I mean, we got a ton of guys that are going to – it's hard to figure the minutes for these guys because they're all just so good. You know, I mean, how are we going to do it? That's what I can't wait to see.
Yeah, that's the exciting thing, especially in the non-conference play. You see a bunch of guys play, you know, different types of minutes in each game. I mean, you know, like for Juwan Gary, for instance, you may see him play just 8 minutes tomorrow night, but the next game he may play 18.
Right.
And it's going to be, you know, there's going to be a lot of switching up in the non-conference schedule. That way, by the time the conference schedule rolls around, you kind of have a good idea of what your rotation is going to be like. So it's going to be exciting to see how Nate kind of plays those guys. And who is a player, Layne, that you're kind of looking to break out this year for Alabama that maybe many people are not talking about?
I'd like to see Keon Ellis just because he was so, you know, highly touted coming in, and I was very excited when he signed. But I think he didn't get a whole lot of significant playing time, so. You know, I think he's going to do some pretty good things this year. We should keep an eye on him for sure. Aside from the obvious J.D. Davidson answer, I mean, we can talk about him a little later.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's just roll right into J.D. Davidson. Obviously, you know, some people had as the top ranked point guard in the class. What excites you most about his game, and what are you looking forward to seeing what he can do in Crimson and White?
The way he attacks the rim as a guard is just amazing. Like he plays with such power, you know, and the only thing that I'd like to see him improve on a little bit, which I'm sure he will, is defensively. That's about the only dark spot he may have, you know, because everything else in his game, from shooting deep, mid-range, attacking the rim, he's elite, and he can be even more elite if he polishes up the defensive side of the ball.
You know, you're talking about how he's a powerful player. I remember the first time I ever watched his tape, the first word that came to my mind was tenacious. When he has the basketball in his hand, he is tenacious.
Yeah.
He's looking to get a bucket. But I also think he's a really underrated passer. I think he's going to surprise some people with his passing ability. And I'm looking forward to, like you mentioned, the defensive end of the court. And you see that with a lot of guys coming from high school to the college level. The defensive part of the game is a little bit behind. And mostly it's because you're not having to guard other Division I players in high school basketball. So it's just a different animal. So I'm with you. I'm excited to see what J.D. Davidson can do.
I'm thinking that, yeah, you said passing. That's very important too, because the way Alabama plays, they like to do that drive through the lane, kick out, pass around the perimeter. That's the whole thing. That's big part of it.
Yeah, and Layne, I want to ask, Herb Jones meant so much to this program. I mean, he was our defensive catalyst. He went out there and had a messed up, arm and still made two big, huge free throws against LSU, one-handed, and he was kind of a legend in Alabama. Who's the guy on this team that can be, we was talking about defense, be that next catalyst that we can depend on late in the game to if we need a stop, he can get us a stop.
Well, I'll say that it's going to be tough to replace Herb Jones simply because he was the swing man on the team, because he could play, he could drive down he could bring the ball up as point. He could play on the wing. I mean, hell, he could even play as a center sometimes, which is crazy to think about, but I know it didn't happen often, but he could. So the guy that I think could do anything to replace him, I mean, at least defensively, I could say that probably Noah Gurley could do a little bit on the defensive side. Offensively, though, I really don't know. I don't know who could do all of the things that he did for us this year.
Right. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about Noah Gurley and J.D. Davidson, but and those are really kind of the big guys as far as the newcomers this year. Outside of Namari Burnett, who we've already mentioned is out for the year, but who is maybe a freshman that maybe a lot of people are not talking about that you could see working themselves in significant minutes and being a contributor for this team?
Maybe not necessarily a freshman. I mean, he is a freshman, but he's a redshirt freshman. Alex Chiku.
Yeah.
I think him and Bediako were going to have a lot of back and forth for minutes, because both of those guys can play the spot. And, Bediako himself is a freshman that nobody's really talking about just because he's being supplanted by J.D. Davidson. But, I mean, I'm here to tell you that Bediako is a good player. He's gonna do well for us this year. And plus, he's got a 7'2" wingspan. I mean, come on, how long has it been since Alabama's had something like that?
Yeah, the rim protector. I mean, imagine last year's team with a 6'11", 6'10" rim protector to stand in the paint and block shots and affect shots. Imagine that last year with last year's team. That would have been very impactful.
That would have been great.
We laughed. We're all three in a little chat on Twitter, but a lot of us last year was talking, man, if DJ Hall was on that team, last year.
Dante Hall.
I'm thinking about football. Yeah, Dante Hall was on that team. My gracious, how different that team would have been, I think.
That's true, and Dante Hall's a little underrated himself as just nationally. I mean, that dude was really good. I wish he would have had a decent coach. Well, I don't want to say that. I wish he would have had
better
Nate Oates. We'll say that.
Yeah.
Well, we know the truth. We know the truth.
Yeah, well, got to remain at least a little bit partial here.
Well, I'm totally impartial.
Right. Yeah.
We love us some Nate Oates here. And speaking of Nate Oates, just kind of a question that I think has to be asked. I don't even want to think about it. Do you think there's any chance that Nate Oates would, considering the success he's having so far at Alabama and that he's probably going to continue to have, is there any part of you that thinks he could possibly move on to another program or maybe jump to the NBA?
NBA is a lucrative option, but other than that, if he builds Alabama to where they can be, I mean, he knows that the donors that Alabama has are just about unmatched everywhere except maybe Texas, USC. But in terms of building the program up, I think he can do that. And once he gets it built up to where he needs it to be, why would he leave, unless, of course, the NBA. But there's only 30 of those jobs, so
Right.
It's just tough to see something like that happening.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't see him leaving because, especially for a college job, because like you said, what you're going to get at Alabama is you're not really going to find anything better than that, as far as people that are willing to give money and to support the program. So I just hope we can kind of get him a new arena someday.
I was just about to say that it'd be great to to either revamp Coleman Coliseum, just completely redo it, or get something else.
Absolutely. I was going to make the point that to me, I don't know how Nate Oates thinks, but me personally, anybody can go to the Dukes, the Kansases, the Blue Bloods, they call it, Kentucky's, and win. But I think it'd be special, especially in his case, if he brought Alabama, who's historically the basketball team has, they're second behind Kentucky in all-time wins in the SEC. But for the last 10 years, it's been kind of rough road, and it's been tough. He can bring them out and give us something we never had before, and that is a national championship. And that to me, that I would be more proud about that than going to a blue blood who can get anybody and win at any time and get a national championship. And I think that's how Nate Oates is thinking. That's just how he is, I think.
I could see that. Yeah, for sure, if he wins the national championship, at that point, why would you leave? Because then the recruits would be coming, and they're already coming. But imagine.
Well, you mentioned the recruits. The Alabama is recruiting with all the big boys now in basketball.
Yep.
So you see they've landed 2 5-stars already for next year's class, a couple 4-stars as well. So Nate Oates isn't gonna he's not losing anything by staying in Alabama. He's gonna get the dudes there. He's gonna get the support. So I think it's really just a matter of time. But the truth is, it's hard to win a championship in basketball.
Oh yeah.
You're talking about a tournament with 60-something teams. So anything can happen. You have a bad day shooting and another team can't miss with their eyes closed. What are you going to do? So it's one of those things. I think he can have us competing year in and year out for a championship. He's already won us an SEC regular season and SEC tournament championship. So the sky's the limit for Nate Oates at Alabama, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And that he won SEC Coach of the Year last year also, which I want to bring that up because this year they gave it to Eric Musselman, and I'm sure all of us on this panel here are blocked by him on Twitter. So, I'm not sure why. And he's a good coach, don't get me wrong, but I like Nate Oates a lot better. And without being biased at all, even though y'all know I am, I think Nate Oates is a better coach than Eric P. Musselman.
I agree. I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's a coach. And I think fit has a lot to do with everything. I'm not sure there's a better fit. This may be talking way out of school, and I could fall flat on my face, but I'm not sure there's a better fit for a program in the country than Nate Oates at Alabama right now.
Right.
As far as fit goes,
I could see that too.
His personality fits perfectly down here, even though he's from up north. He seems to fit perfectly down here with the culture. I don't know. He just seems like he's perfectly content being here, and he obviously has garnered, gained attention from the fan base. They've sold the most tickets for their, than they have in a long time. So I'm excited about Nate Oates. I can't say that enough.
Absolutely.
I also don't mind the breath of fresh air that comes with a little bit of trash talk from an Alabama athletics coach because that's fun to see. I love it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
He's already made Coach K retire, so that's a little squabble. But I also love at the end of the SEC championship game last year when it finally hit 0, he's like. Everybody knows what he said, but he just the passion that, you can tell he loves his job and he loves the University of Alabama.
He's a competitor. He is a competitor.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we've kind of rambled a little bit about the team so far. Tip-off is tomorrow night as we record, like I said, on Monday night against Louisiana Tech, a team that is a lot better than most people realize. This is actually a pretty tough matchup for Alabama to open up the season. So I'm expecting a pretty tight ball game. What are you expecting tomorrow night, Layne?
Well, Louisiana Tech, they played a heavy SEC schedule last year, and they even got a couple wins out of them. So, honestly, after last year, I'd like to say 100-point win, but it's just not realistic. So I'll say I think we're going to put up a ton of points. I think we're going to see this team, continue what Nate Oates likes to do, shoot deep, and that's pretty much it. Drive the lane, shoot deep. I think we can win by at least 11 points. I'd say we win by 11 points.
Yeah, and when I say close game, what I mean is, with 8 minutes left, there's only about a 6 to 8 point lead for Alabama, and it doesn't really get much closer than that. The remainder of the contest. But Louisiana Tech's a pretty solid team. I mean, they have a preseason Wooden Award Watch list player, I believe. I mean, I think
so.
I can't remember the guy's name, but they've got some good players on that team.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either. I need to do a little bit more research on our opponent, I guess.
But like I said, looking forward to tip-off tomorrow night. SEC Network, 7 o'clock. Is that right?
I think so.
I think it's 8 p.m.
It's 8 p.m. That's right.
8 p.m.
I think it'll be 8.
Time change.
That's so late. That's so late. I'm an old man. I got to go to bed.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
Real quick, talking about the schedule. My gracious, it's like murder's row, and that's what Nate Oates wants to get them ready for SEC play. But the one I've got circled, and I was hoping we'd got sent in the Final Four last year, December 4th against Gonzaga. I want to see how that goes.
Yeah, and that one might as well be a Gonzaga home game. Just because you hold it in Seattle 3 hours away don't mean it's not a Gonzaga home game, But,
I know it.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that game. I can't wait for it.
Well, there's a lot of teams that, and you brought up Eric Musselman in Arkansas earlier. Last year they had a great record out of conference, and it's because they didn't play anybody.
Right.
And then you saw them struggle the first few weeks of conference play because they didn't know who they were at that time. Yeah. And it took them towards the end of conference play to be playing their best basketball. And you saw the opposite from Alabama. They came into conference play last year with a mediocre record, and then they go on a tear in conference play, win the regular season, and then the tournament because they knew who they were when they got to SEC play because they played a tough schedule, and they were able to find out what they were made of and what they needed to do. And I'm all for that. If you lose 3 or 4 or 5 out of conference games because you play some hell of basketball teams, I'm fine with that. At least we're going to know who we are by the time we make it to SEC play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing so many tournament teams from last year out of conference. It's insane. It's like Nate Oates and Greg Byrne, they went – I don't want to say what I was going to say because it's probably NSFW, but they went all out on scheduling, and I'm here for it. I love watching those games like that.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Me too. I'm sorry, but the most boring thing to watch is Alabama versus Alabama A&M. And the start of the second half, it's 62-28. Who the heck wants to watch that?
Alabama versus Alabama.
That's what Auburn does. Auburn likes to schedule those guys.
You're right. Well, we're not going to talk about Auburn.
I was going to say,
hey, let me ask y'all this. I don't know if it's just me. I despise Auburn basketball right now with Bruce Pearl more than I do Auburn football.
Yes, absolutely.
No, I'm with you there. I can't stand Bruce Pearl, man.
I didn't like him when he was at Tennessee. I didn't like him when he was at Wisconsin, Milwaukee. I have never liked the dude.
But Nate Oates is 3-1 against him. And that one win, they had a 17-point lead that we come back and they had to beat us in overtime. So I think Nate Oates has got Bruce's number.
To be fair, though, I think LSU right now is my most hated team just because of Will Wade and how arrogant and ridiculous he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was fixing to go to you mentioned the NSF, whatever you said, not safe for work or whatever you want to call it. I was fisting to go with the Michael Scott if I had one 2 bullets, and I was in a room with Bin Laden and Bruce Pearl.
Yeah,
Oh
you're
my
talking about
gosh! We
Yeah,
need to cut that out.
the HR guy.
yeah, with Toby Flenderson.
Yeah, Toby.
If I had 2 bullets in a room with Toby and Osama bin Laden, I'd use both on Toby.
Oh my
No,
gosh!
that's a joke. People don't take that serious when you listen to this.
No, don't take it serious.
No, that's an office quote.
Yes.
Everybody does that.
All right, Layne. Hey, man, we really appreciate you jumping on here to talk a little
Yeah.
Bama hoops as we get ready for tip-off tomorrow night inside Coleman Coliseum. A lot to look forward to. Layne, make sure you let everybody know real quick how they can follow you on Twitter, social media, how they can catch your stuff on Roll Tide Wire, just what all you're doing and what you got planned this week.
Well, we can do on Twitter at Layne G_29. That was
Better
the only
than
one
your last
available.
one.
Yeah, the last one was Deutsche Bammer,
I
and that
cannot
one was
spell.
just too hard for some people to. So we went with something simple this time. And on Roll Tide Wire, you can just go to rolltidewire.usatoday.com and get all my good stuff there.
Mhm.
Yeah, Layne does a great job of not only covering the hoops team, but football and just whatever kind of news pops up regarding the Crimson Tide. Really appreciate you jumping on, Layne.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun talking some Bama hoops. Look forward to talking again soon as the season tips off tomorrow night in Coleman Coliseum. All right, guys, we're going to head out now. We appreciate everybody listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button today. Like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter. And until next time, roll tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.